What's up guys, it's me Cripple and Crunch, back with another absolute fizzer. And you know what, the last video was pretty depressing, it was pretty deep, so I've decided that I'm gonna go back to my roots, console fanboys. Now I know that you guys are probably gonna go, oh he's just gonna dunk on another PlayStation channel. No! We're going in a different direction this time. This time, we're crossing the aisle to the Xbox side of things to see if any of those fanboys are still alive. And well, I found a guy, ColtEastwood, you know, pretty famous Xbox YouTuber. And well, this is going to be much more an exercise of why the pot shouldn't call the kettle black, shall we say. Cause old mate is pretty chuffed about the Microsoft Activision deal and is pretty upset about an article that DualShockers, which is like a PlayStation website, put out about it. And as you'll see as we go on, this entire situation just encapsulates how console fanboys are corporate slaves who make YouTube videos. I'll have this video linked in the description, you can go check it out. Not everything he says is super disagreeable, but some of it is just so fucking egregious. Anyway, let's hit the play button, shall we?
Recently, DualShockers, a PlayStation-centric website, reported that gamers don't win with Microsoft's Activision Blizzard merger, and that, quote, Microsoft has gone too far this time. There is only one kind of fan that doesn't win, but some may not want to hear why.
The irony of this guy using the Wojak fanboy cap. Something you'll notice very quickly about these channels is that they love to put on a veneer of authenticity and of order. However, when you actually look into what they're saying, it's just the same as like fucking Malcolm or whatever.
This is ColtEastwood, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about an Activision and Blizzard article that shows the media bias against Xbox.
Oh my god. Some article from some rando news publication and is representative of the entire media attitude towards Microsoft, the second largest company on earth. These channels are such professional victims, dude. And they're doing it on behalf of multi-billion-dollar corporations. Yeah, I bet they really need the help of some spit bucket wearing snob.
Microsoft and Xbox are close to closing the deal for Activision and Blizzard, a near $70 billion merger which will bring more games to the Xbox platform. But some in the media and fans are not liking this idea. DualShockers says, acquiring franchises such as Call of Duty, Candy Crush, Overwatch, Warcraft, Diablo, and more. However, many gamers stand to lose a good deal from this merger, close quote.
Did he like take the start of that quote off? It sounds really weird. Okay, there's the full quote if anyone's interested, but I mean, if Microsoft's management of current franchises is anything to go by, we're in deep shit. Like, yeah, I agree 100% with that sentiment.
No one stands to lose anything from the Activision Blizzard games being owned by Xbox except for one set of fans, PlayStation-only fans. PlayStation-only fans are mostly comprised of fanboys that only play on a PlayStation console. In fact, the worst kind are those that refuse to play on their decent or super mega rainbow-lit gaming PC in favor of only playing on a PS5.
What the fuck are you talking about? First of all, PlayStation literally has the word play in it, but PlayStation only fans was the best sexual innuendo you could come up with. Second of all, who are you talking about? Not everyone owns a great PC, or even a middle-of-the-range PC. People buy consoles because it's often the most reliable way that they can play games comfortably. So this guy is absolutely strawmanning his argument with a group of people that don't even exist.
DualShockers then goes on to imply that Activision Blizzard games will be locked into the Game Pass service where you'll be forced to access them with a subscription fee. They say, even those of us using Microsoft's subscription service, Game Pass would inevitably bundle most of these games into the subscription fee with a significant delusion of competition and increased power for Microsoft.
Okay, you've completely misinterpreted that. That wasn't about them forcing people into the subscription service. It was about the illusion of a competition that doesn't exist. You're like trying to draw blood from a stone here. What the fuck are you talking about?
I don't want to get very conspiracy theory, but watch how they continually use the word Microsoft in the place of Xbox, something that some parts of the media, and especially fanboys, do not want to associate the gaming platform with the name Xbox, where the team Xbox has quite clearly marketed their games division as being Xbox.
Ugh, Jesus Christ, dude. You know, the more clips I see of this motherfucker, the more I think of that guy from Waterworld who was like waiting around in the oil in the bottom of his ship, and every time Microsoft releases an exclusive, it's like dropping that match down the tube and all the oil just explodes.
Oh, thank God.
I mean, dude, please get a fucking life. The reason that sites like this are using Microsoft at the moment and not Xbox is because it's Microsoft making the transaction.
Now buckle up, because you're going to see some desperation from the side of DualShockers and some very harsh and difficult facts to look at, as the perception has been a major driver in what has been the friction against Xbox going through with a bigger growth with more games.
What? The friction against the deal is because regulators don't want Microsoft having a monopoly over the gaming market. God, these people's heads are so far up their ass.
This is how it actually works for Xbox. Selling games to own, allowing them to be shared across consoles and game sharing with Steam, renting them a la carte in Game Pass, and allowing cloud streaming, low-cost entry trials. DualShockers tries to posture Xbox as restricting, when in fact they are doing more to expand the world of gamers than Nintendo and PlayStation's name brand power and availability.
Okay, first of all, obviously you can do that when you own most of the gaming market. That's what Microsoft's trying to do. And second, I don't know if we read two different articles, but that's not what the article's saying at all. The article's just complaining about declining competition.
Ever could. They say, quote, "This acquisition will give the tech giant even greater sway in the market in a fashion similar to Disney's near monopoly in films, spelling nothing good for anyone who isn't at the top of the corporate food chain," close quote. Let's look at Disney. They bought out the Marvel and Star Wars licenses and have offered the lowest cost barrier of entry of streaming TV and movies with arguably some of the most desired content, funding additional franchises to be enjoyed more often with more shows and more TV and movies, rising to near 200 million subscribers, circulating the profits to create bigger and more content value to grow the Disney Plus platform.
Are you seriously trying to claim that Disney is a good example for this kind of business plan? Ah yes, Marvel and Star Wars, truly at the peak of their creative potential at the moment. I mean, I'm not saying they're terrible, but they're hardly great. Disney's like infamously been really mid lately. I'm not even gonna bother to bring up how Disney abuses their VFX team either.
In other words, Xbox has promised that PlayStation will continue to get Call of Duty for the next 10 years, something we've heard about for over a year and a half. And looking at the few remaining franchises from Activision and Blizzard, that only leaves Overwatch, Diablo, and Crash Bandicoot, and at this point, Overwatch will always be multiplat. We won't see another Diablo in another 10 years, and for the remainder of its life cycle, a game like Crash Bandicoot being exclusive to Xbox definitely wouldn't crack the world in half.
I love how this guy doesn't mention Starfield, probably Fallout, and most likely the next Elder Scrolls game won't be on PlayStation either. The article is much more concerned about the precedent that this kind of move sets.
DualShocker says, quote, "As if it wasn't enough for the industry to already be so heavily concentrated, it is not. This merger would put a truly ridiculous amount of power in the palms of Microsoft, especially considering how they already own the biggest video game franchise of all time, Minecraft, as well as all of Bethesda, which owns properties like Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Doom, Arcane Studios, Starfield, and many more," close quote.
Again, what are DualShockers or other media sites that are pushing against this merger truly worried about? Are they worried about Microsoft having so much financial power in the gaming segment that they would continue to buy more studios or publishers? Looking at this very popular pie graph of all of the game publishers that make up the world gaming community and industry, Microsoft, even right now, if they acquire Activision and Blizzard, would still own a very small portion of the pie.
How do you educate someone who lacks critical thinking to this extent? That's like me saying that me and you are equal when I have 10 big Easter eggs and you have 10 little Easter eggs. I mean, communism achieved, right? A lot of the companies that Microsoft owns are themselves massive conglomerates of previously acquired companies.
Or are they afraid that Microsoft and Xbox will take games away from PlayStation like they've done with Bethesda?
There you go.
Yes. Yes, they will. The Activision and Blizzard situation with games staying multiplat is an outlier, as regulators have crunched down hard on one of the biggest mergers ever, which will probably never be repeated by Xbox or even PlayStation. There is a true concern for growing the beast of Xbox with a snowball-like effect of buying big franchises, earning money to circulate into bigger games, and buying more franchises, but even Xbox is the most inclusive gaming platform and has offered to put their Game Pass service on Nintendo and PlayStation consoles, although PlayStation has heavily refused that to happen on the PlayStation consoles.
Oh yeah, hear that guys? PlayStation just wasn't grateful enough to accept Microsoft's great product. That's like you being harassed by someone with a boxing glove, and then they offer you their boxing glove before they sock you in the face.
DualShockers then goes on to blame Disney for making so much subpar content. They say, quote, Disney has shown how the centralization can be bad for an industry. Due to diminished competition and further power, these entertainment oligarchs can easily flood the market with subpar content, such as what's happened with the excessive content turnout on Disney Plus in regard to their Marvel and Star Wars IPs, much of which has received a lukewarm reception, close quote.
Meaning that they are worried that Xbox will make a bunch of mediocre games, which would be something that PlayStation fans would want to avoid anyway. See, you can't have it both ways. You can't claim that Xbox will make world-changing games that no one can have access to, and then be worried that those games will also be mediocre.
Okay, so they never claimed that they were going to miss out on world-changing games. They were just talking about how it's unfair that Microsoft will have access and ownership over literally all of them, whether or not they're good or bad. And besides, Microsoft is already making a bunch of mediocre games, so they got that part right.
Activision Blizzard has a dubious reputation when it comes to monetization in its games. Microsoft has released games like Rise Son of Rome and Forza 5, games that created the template for the landscape of the current AAA industry by helping normalize microtransactions in premium games near enough their infancy, close quote. This is an outright lie. Rise Son of Rome was made by Crytek, third-party partnership with Xbox way back in 2013. Forza 5 was a game that came out as well in 2013 and had microtransactions, like all racing games do, it seems, in the industry. In fact, microtransactions have been something that have born and bred through EA and Activision and other big publishers. It is not a new thing. It definitely was not pioneered by Xbox, and it definitely was not something that Xbox led the market with.
I mean, Xbox literally introduced the whole pay-to-play online with friends thing, so I'm gonna say, yeah, they did pioneer online microtransactions. And anyway, you didn't actually refute their point, you just said that EA and Activision are pioneering it, and well, guess who owns EA and Activision now, buddy?
The business model to take a $70 game like Call of Duty and put it nearly for free on Game Pass bolsters the already massively popular microtransactions and incentivize the optional extras for those that save $70, putting that money into the extras since they get the game for nearly for free.
Look, I'm not a huge microtransaction guy, I think they're kind of annoying, but watch how quickly this guy goes from praising the fact that you now have $70 to spend on a gambling marketplace in a game that you didn't end up spending on the actual title itself. Look how quickly he turns against that concept when it's on PlayStation instead of Xbox.
But it's simply down to this. Microtransactions are so popular because millions of people are buying them every single day. In fact, PlayStation just had a major egregious microtransaction fallout with Gran Turismo 7 just last year, and their partner games are loaded with monetization. Unfortunately for PlayStation-only fans, most of their first-party exclusive games rarely have online competitive or cooperative experiences that would benefit from online monetization or microtransactions.
Literally the one thing that you had evidence for is an online game that, by your definition, would benefit from microtransactions. I don't even necessarily disagree with his point here. This is just bad scripting and sourcing on his part. This is just a really flawed thesis and video at this point.
DualShockers goes on to say, quote, Square Enix and PlayStation shows they're ultimately going to play the same game as Microsoft.
Let's stop for a second. Ah, here it is, the classic PlayStation fanboy or biased media projecting their defensiveness about Microsoft making acquisitions and mergers by saying it's going to be okay. PlayStation is going to make some big mergers too, and they'll be able to combat what Microsoft is doing.
How bad is your media analysis? Holy shit. Eastwood, you are the guy that repeated Year 7. Your analysis over here makes my book report about a monster calls look like the director's cut of Manufacturing Consent. Now, I might be out of touch here, but I presumed when I read that they were actually being critical of both sides of the industry, you know, just a thought. Bear in mind, this is coming from a wannabe political commentator. Not everything is outright propaganda.
They say, quote, yes, Microsoft started it with their aggressive acquisitions. Hold on, let's stop for a second again.
I don't think a commentary YouTuber has ever said this before, but Jesus Christ, that's cringe.
Looking at PlayStation studios, over half of their studios and their teams have all been bought and paid for.
That's not the point. Microsoft Microsoft started it. Now, I will say that Sony does it a hell of a lot more, but still. I mean, if you go all the way back to Halo, which is Microsoft's biggest franchise, they literally poached that from Apple.
I'm sorry, let me go on. They say, yes, Microsoft started it with their aggressive acquisitions in recent years. Sony's generally been a better nurturer of in-house talent, but Sony is certainly prepared to perpetuate it. Close quote.
There you go. It's not okay for Xbox to do it, but dang it, we need Sony to step up to the plate and buy more studios.
This guy is the Joe McCarthy of the Xbox fan base, dude. The article states the fact that PlayStation is now more interested in corporate acquisitions because of the whole Xbox thing, and Colt twists this into some conspiracy theory that this was a plan by DualShock to send some Enigma code to PlayStation to start buying more studios. Actual glue sniffer stuff over here. So next up, he goes through this chart that's full of like Metacritic scores for a bunch of first-party games from Xbox and PlayStation, and there's a 2% difference. I don't have the time or the care to go through and vet this properly, so we're just going to move on to his next point. Needless to say, a 2% difference is negligible, especially when PlayStation is projected to release more first-party games anyway.
Now, what's left to unpack is a really fun statement that is perpetuating exclusive agreements that PlayStation will continue to do. Instead of buying major publishers or massive studios, PlayStation is allegedly backing major franchises that have always released on Xbox platform and keeping them off the Xbox platform. In fact, right now, 11 congresspeople in the US are investigating a possible payment incentive that PlayStation is giving studios to make games and not make a version on the Xbox.
Oh my god, this is such a fucking whataboutism, dude. Look, both companies suck, not denying that. Surprise, big corporation, bad. But I actually think that Microsoft buying the entire market is a lot worse than PlayStation just paying out a bunch of companies. I'm obviously being a bit hyperbolic there, but my point still stands.
DualShocker says, quote, as the game industry faces are carved up into fewer chunks. Despite already being a few chunks, this merger looks to cause more problems. Microsoft expanding their studio collection will have a huge effect on the industry. Likely for the worst, close quote.
Ah, the sting of that statement. It hurts them so much, but here's my report. Wrong. PlayStation has been dominating the market, games ownership, and quelling competition with egregious money hatting.
I love how this guy will take any W over PlayStation he can, even if it's fucking over your everyday man. It's so obvious that he hates the opposing console more than he likes his own. You know, just because PlayStation does something bad doesn't give Microsoft permission to do something worse.
Having Xbox become successful means that PlayStation will actually work harder to provide more value and more variety, like shooters, online competitive games, and better services across more devices within the PlayStation ecosystem.
Kinda hard to do, and Microsoft owns the majority of the gaming platforms on other devices and can deny them access at any time.
This is something PlayStation hopes to do anyway, but they've been pressured into speeding that process up for their customers and their fans because Xbox and their leadership are actually leading the market the way it's going to go. The Activision Blizzard merger is very good for gaming, the competition, and the market, but bad for PlayStation only fans, and they're the ones who don't win.
Yeah, when I hear the name Xbox, I definitely think of leading the market. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. He just goes to his outro segment after that. So that was verifiably one of the worst videos I've ever seen from an Xbox fanboy, and is evidence of why, you know, maybe you should think about the gaming market in terms of your everyday person instead of two massive corporations fighting like rock'em sock'em robots. But you know, that DualShockers article actually really surprised me with how good it was. It was a good analysis, and I know I said it was in question at the start of the video, but I rescind that, man. Go give it a read, it's pretty sweet. Anyway guys, enjoy my terrible Just Cause 3 gameplay on your way out. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, have a great day, and I'll see you next time. See you guys.
I'm in the daylight, you're calling to say hi, but your words they cry. If there's something that you need to say,